presents You Can't Sit With Us podcast with your hosts, Mother Delamort, Macabre Lamont, and Hexus Diamond.
Hello!
I forgot my blood pressure med. I'll be right back.
All right, so welcome. I think Hexus unplugged my phone charger. And he's going to go get his blood pressure medication, which I do believe might be in my hand.
Ooh.
Yes.
Scavenger hunt.
He unplugged my charger. And so, welcome everybody!
That makes sense. He unplugged your charger, you stole his meds. I mean, that seems like a fair trade.
Very true.
Very fair. Very fair. So tonight, Odd Mother, what are we talking about?
Well, tonight we are going to, since we have just completely gone down the rabbit hole, which we are so good about doing, and it's always lots of fun, we're going to actually kind of go back to the beginning. I know last podcast, I was going to say last week, but last podcast, we were talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the island, and we kind of left it with the fact that this was not really the first time that this had been done, and really getting into some really creepy connections with some people that you guys out there in the audience may recognize. And is not surprising really at all once you kind of start following the breadcrumb. I will say, yeah. I mean, it's really, really creepy. And I got to tell you, like, I know that we've been kind of talking in the background, but sometimes you do research to where you're like, ooh, this is so cool and all that kind of stuff. But this was a hard one. This deals with some like really, really heavy content, like topic content. So, you know, just kind of giving everybody a warning on this one. It's pretty bad. Well, I don't want to say pretty bad. It's just really heavy. So.
What did I
Trigger warning, explicit content. Wait, should we do the other one?
Sure,
Yeah,
why not?
You want to do the happy fun one?
All right. Under the fair use, another author may make limited use of the original author's work without asking permission. Pursuant to 17 U.S. Code 107, certain use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, including multiple copies for classroom use, scholarship, or research is not an infringement of copyright. Also, warning, the related content may be disturbing to some individuals, so viewer discretion is advised. I'm not going to say may, I'm going to say will be really fucking disturbing.
So we were joking around last night, Odd Mother and me, because what happened was I was trying to come up with a name for the episode and I couldn't figure it out. And I wrote this.
We had an issue with a certain name.
That's where I was going to. I was like, a certain name didn't work because Facebook wasn't allowing, but YouTube was. YouTube's cool as shit. But I was like, I don't know what to do here. And then as I was talking to Odd Mother, I was like, you know, I'm definitely on an FBI watch list for this one. I was like, I gotta go take a shower.
Sometimes doing research, you have to look up some things that you would rather not.
Have you ever gotten the official letter in the mail?
No.
So, like, there are some things legit that you can look, like, really too far into, and you will get, like, it's basically just a polite, hey, you know, you accessed this on this date, you know, more or less, should we be concerned about this letter? I have received that letter once in the past. As a writer, you go down even crazier rabbit holes.
Yeah.
There were some times where even I'm researching something going, I got to go farther. I know I shouldn't, but I got to go farther. And I actually got one of those letters one time. I didn't know they actually existed. I'd heard people talk about them, but I should have framed it now that I think about it.
Curiosity kills the cat. But we do not suicide ourselves, so just to let everybody know.
No.
So if we end up suicided, it was not us.
No.
Yeah.
I might be getting a letter in the mail concerning a certain song about Tiny Danzig.
Yeah.
Hold me closer, Tiny Danzig. It's stuck in my head.
But to really talk about our sources, really what caused us kind of to follow down this rabbit hole was a podcast. And I believe they are part of the Discovery Channel or ID Channel?
ID.
ID Channel. Yeah.
I
it was
do.
called,
I love. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's called The Clown and the Candyman, and I guess the person that was doing the podcast, her name was believe it's Jacqueline Bynan. I believe she's a journalist, so.
And she sounds like I hate to say this, but I actually thought it was super cool, like how she was sounding, because it sounded like she was doing the old radio trick. Like she wasn't used to doing the podcast or speaking on like on radio. So, and in order to speak properly, you're supposed to, like, what was the marble trick? You fill your mouth full of marbles, and then the better you get, the more marbles you take out, and then once you can actually speak properly on a radio, then you don't have to use them anymore. Well, she sounded like she was doing that trick, like where it was almost kind of like this a little bit. That. Yeah, if you go back and listen to it, like guys, it's a super cool podcast. It's called the Clown and the Candyman, and but when you listen to her, it brought back the old days of listening to people come on like I can't think of that guy. George
like
Norris
AM radios and things
AM
like
radio,
that. Yeah.
coast to coast and stuff like that. It was super cool listening to it. So
yeah, it really was. And I don't want to take away from anything that she's done. So, ours is going to be kind of, I don't want to say an overview, but she really dives deep. So if you're interested in what we're talking about tonight and you want to go a little bit deeper with like interviews from the detectives and different things like that, then I would definitely recommend you check out that podcast. So.
There is, if you do go back and listen to it, and especially, I don't know if you had the same reaction, on Mother, that I had when I was going over it last week. It sounded like, conspiracy theories now, and then all of a sudden, when they actually start getting the cops on there from the different states, especially the part with Louisiana with the Boy Scouts, which we're going to get into here.
Right. And you don't realize the connections until later on in the podcast. You're just like, well, that's kind of a stretch to assume that. But then you learn later that certain names came up in certain investigations, and it does have a connection. So
yeah, it wasn't just a connection for me. It was actually going, this isn't just a podcast seeking fame here. This is actually like
a documentary.
Well, this is real, is what it felt like to me. I was like, oh, this is actually real. It was because all the stuff that comes out now is like, it's all poo-pooed as, oh, it's just conspiracy theory. It never happened. Don't worry about it. But back in the 70s, when people actually did real journalism and stuff like that, they were like, no, this shit's real. And it's not a satanic ring here. This is actually a state-to-state human trafficking ring. Then this is stuff that's actually going on. So. Right,
exactly. And I miss the days of the real investigative journalism. I can't remember who I was talking to. It was about a year ago or so, and they were going through journalism school, and that was basically, what they were being told in journalism school is that everything is editorial now.
Yeah, it is
pretty much.
There's
no real investigative or anything like that. It's all editorial.
I actually have a weird anecdote about that. Like, so I went to broadcasting school in the late 90s, early 2000 era. And one of the things that I was interested in doing was investigative journalism and with broadcasting. And they pretty much just said, this is kind of what you're going for. You might be wasting your time because with the market and the way things are going, it's just not going to work out for you. So I ended up instead working for different radio stations and television stations in different capacities for a while. And I ended up not pursuing the additional degree in just journalism because at that point in time, actually a creative writing and English and literature degree was a lot more useful because you'll get a lot more jobs in newspapers than if you actually go for journalism. It's kind of crazy how that works now.
It is. It really is. Because, back in the 60s and 70s, like journalism was the thing, with the Vietnam War and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They wanted boots on the ground. They wanted to know what was going on behind the scenes. And you had your editorial pieces that would come on like on Sunday evenings, like 60 Minutes and stuff. But
then nobody really wanted to listen to 60 Minutes, Well, I did like 60 Minutes.
You had, with the Vietnam War, you had, what's his name? Walter Cronkite.
Walter Cronkite.
Basically,
and this is the news.
Deeming the war effort, that we lost. And then that's when you also have people going, well, screw this, I ain't going to listen to this anymore, But
Well, I mean, hate to be the bearer of bad news. That was a war that we did not win.
No, I'm not saying
That
that.
was kind of a war I don't think we should have ever really been involved in, to be very
I
honest.
don't think
That's
anyone
my personal-
actually
Exactly.
won that. To be honest,
Exactly. Nobody won.
Mhm.
That was a war that nobody should have been in, and nobody won.
Honestly, I think of
Right.
Vietnam.
And my grandfather was in Vietnam.
Covering the Vietnam War might be something
My
we
dad
all
was.
we could actually do that too as an episode because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so much stuff.
I should
Oh,
probably refrain from that. I'll tell you why. I make a lot of jokes about the Vietnam War, not because it's not serious, because it is a very serious thing, and I had family that served during it. But there were some South Park episodes about Vietnam that really ruined it for me. And anytime someone mentions Vietnam, I have to ask them if they had a log ride in their camp because, and I just don't want to piss people off with that. But that's where my
No.
brain just
American-
goes.
Well, my
Yes.
dad was stationed over there, and so
Right.
you know, if we did anything like that, because I completely support the military. You know,
Same.
again,
Yeah, so do we.
these podcasts are a little bit different than what we do on our, you know, feeds and stuff like that for entertainment on Psycho Bunny and Psychomantium. But I do support the military, and
Yes.
that is one thing that I cannot abide is just blatant disrespect, because a lot of those boys
Right.
did not want to go. They did
See,
not
for me,
want to
like-
go, and they did not get a welcome when they got back. Like it was their fault.
Yeah, they got spit on.
Akaz pointing out that
Mm-hmm.
we're actually on Facebook, and there's a purpose that we're on Facebook. And I don't know when you want to do the house cleaning. Forgot we were supposed to do that.
Like, so I will
Yeah,
always
first,
like.
yeah.
I will always totally like respect anything war related, man. Like a lot of people don't know this, but I come from one of the biggest military towns in all of our country. I am right up against Wright Pat Air Force Base, so everything is nothing but military. Everyone you know is probably you're gonna know them for like a month or a week or a year, and then they're shipped out somewhere. So I respect it 100%. I just make jokes about everything because that's who I am. But yeah, I totally 100 million% respect all that shit, man.
There's an episode.
Well, we all have extremely, dark humor here. So
There's an episode of American Dad where they are doing a war reenactment, and Stan brings Steve. Well, it wasn't like a Civil War reenactment. It was a Vietnam War reenactment on the golf course. And like
why do I want to go, Lieutenant Dan? You ain't got no legs.
Lieutenant Dan, you got new legs.
And then my brain,
my favorite movie.
then my brain is just gonna end up in Tropic Thunder, no matter what we do. I think at that point.
What do
Well,
you
they had-
mean, you people? What do you mean, you people?
They had cardboard. No. They had taken ceiling fans and stuck them on top of golf carts, and they.
I'll just say I'm just a dude who's playing a dude who's playing another dude.
Haven't they already done like a parody on Apocalypse Now, like certain like
Oh, yeah.
scenes? Or
Oh, well, you have Hot Shots Part 2.
Yep.
But
And then like when they're when Charlie Sheen, he's like doing a monologue in his head while he's going down the river, and then all of a sudden he hears Martin Sheen doing his monologue, and they're like, "I loved you in Apocalypse Now" or whatever it was. And they like whatever movie they loved each other.
Those movies ruin me, dude. Because like even if someone mentions Top Gun, my brain just goes to Hot Shots Part 1. Like that's it. I don't even like. I don't even care about Top Gun. Don't even like it. But I love Hot Shots. That's where my brain just goes.
I'm
best.
sorry, but I think Alan, you're doing talk to text again, because you just had the funniest message, and I know it wasn't intentional. I know what you were trying to say, but I gotta bring it up. I'm so
Oh my God, Alan, that's hilarious.
Oh,
Mama always said life.
it's
Like
like
a
about
box of-
Chicago.
you don't know what you're gonna get.
Cicero.
You don't know what you're gonna
Thank
get
you,
when you
Alan.
go to Chicago.
And now my brain's like, he had it coming.
He had it coming. And then we have to go. We do have to bring up the fact,
along.
Raz, you never heard my theory on Chicago.
Let's
That
hear it.
when you actually make it about men in prison, it's a brutal, brutal movie.
By the way,
she had it coming.
Yeah.
She had it coming.
she ran into my knife. She ran into my knife.
No, what was the other
times.
part where he was like, I came home and dinner wasn't done? I was like, we were stoned one night, and then all of a sudden I was
found
like,
the gay
babe, this
version
is.
of Chicago, and it is now my favorite thing I've ever seen in my entire
Well,
life.
I think that's what we were watching, and then I was like, okay, this is awesome right here. This is freaking cool that they're doing this. But then I was like, if you actually do the proper one where it's, it's a whole bunch of just fucked up prisoners talking about what they did to their wives and how they're serial killers, and then when you're good, instead of being when you're good to mama, mama's good to you, it's when you're good to daddy, daddy's good to you.
I feel like we should save that for like a Valentine's Day episode.
Oh, right.
Okay, on a side
My
note,
bloody
though,
Valentine.
Queen Latifah was gorgeous in that movie.
She's gorgeous anywhere she goes, especially when she's
But
playing
I
Ursula.
was like, what was it? So boost me up the ladder, boys, and I'll boost you up yours. She does like the poop thing. And I was like, yes.
You almost knocked yourself out with your own boobs right now.
and the numbers go up.
Hey, Tia.
Hi, Tia.
So, you know what? I do need to send out a warning real fast. Again, I know that we are now getting some people in. One, this is a podcast, so we're generally not going to be bringing up comments. I just had to, Alan. I'm sorry. And you're having some wonderful comments there on the side that we will address at some point. But that one was just too funny because I know you're doing talk to text, and I know that I knew exactly what you meant. Two, this is going to be a very brutal episode.
That's why.
So we're not going to be offended if you guys don't watch tonight at the moment, because we are going to be talking about a sexual content. We are going to be talking about sexual molestation. We are going to be talking about all kinds of things that may be triggering to some people who may have experienced similar experiences.
Yeah.
Yes, but stay tuned right now. Don't leave yet, because we've got some big announcements to make.
Yeah, before
That's
you
the
leave.
reason we're on Facebook right now.
Yes.
So.
let's
So?
get done with me singing Chicago and talking about Queen Latifah's titties.
She had it.
And-
She had it.
Let's jump.
What?
Huh? You froze up for a second.
Poor Eileen, man.
Hey, what was that chick's name last night that we did something with?
She's
I have a
now
name for a
wearing an
song.
eye patch.
All right, so who wants to make the big announcement?
I don't know what it is, so
You're better at verbiage than I am, and the Ka is.
Ka is a lot better. And guys, I know we've been around for a really long time, and this has been kind of a dream of ours for a very long
3
time.
years now? Is it 4?
Oh,
No, 3?
Lord, yeah. And so
For a minute.
Longer. Remember,
we've gone through our ups and downs, but it's finally happened, guys.
Back when we started with just tablets and phones pointing at our faces.
Yeah.
and somebody drunk telling me, I'll remember all of it. You don't need to write down the notes. And I go, hey, it's your part.
I got this.
What was I
live
talking
feed
about?
Stuff down, and then after I was done watching that, I was like, I want to be more professional.
So we totally got this. I know what we're talking about.
Well, so yeah, we've been doing this for a while now, and we finally have something that happened. How do I say it? I mean, how do we say it?
Do you want me to go? I can show the top of the paperwork.
I think you can show the top of the paperwork.
And I was about to blurt it out.
Hold on.
This
hold
feels
on, hold on.
like a Playboy like centerfold reveal.
I can't keep this up.
Yeah, I had to stop moving.
No burritos, just tacos, no?
I'm about to just pop in.
I'm about to pass out.
I'm gonna skip right in. Let's skip right in 9th Roxbury.
No, I was thinking
Wow, 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 wow.
the system is down.
The system is down.
The cheat is grounded.
Let me find it. Where is it at?
Live from Panama City.
Oh my god, all of
There's
our
almost
numbers
people
went
coming
up.
right now.
What? Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Share.
Uh-oh, you're muted. Uh-oh.
No, she muted on
Uh-oh.
purpose.
I know.
She muted on purpose.
All the.
No. It was totally the government.
It's probably all the ex-members coming in going, what are they talking about? What's going on here?
Come on in. See the show. Let's do this. What?
You can do it.
All night long.
We're having technical difficulties. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
That's cool.
See, I have these copies all organized to send out to everybody because it's something that we have to do.
I got to file a lot of... We got to get a filing cabinet soon.
Pumpkin pie cider.
Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? And I hope God it's not backwards, but it's probably going to be. Hold on.
I see white paper. What?
Oh, we're official.
We're a corporation.
Official.
We're officially a corporation.
Somebody got drunk when they approved that.
Oh, 3 people dropped off. 4 people.
They know the cat's out of the bag.
They were just like, oh, fuck, we're screwed, and dipped out.
What's the...
The best part is me flipping people off being totally professional. Cheers.
Now, we never claim to be totally professional. We've already discussed that it's always casual Friday. Matter of fact, pants are not even required.
Right.
Hey, I'm not wearing any pants, so that's good.
What's the best way for her to say this now? All of our stuff is protected.
We are protected. So let me put it this way. Psycho Bunny Death Cult's protected. Psychomantium 13 is protected. Roots Bleed Red is protected. And hey, guess what? I got a secret for you guys. Channel 9 is also fucking protected.
Yep.
It's like a corporate prophylactic.
But we're a company now.
Yeah. But this has been a dream of ours for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And
so
guys, if you guys have a dream, just stay with it. You've got to go through the hard times to be able to appreciate the good times. So
exactly.
Yeah.
It took a minute, especially the last... Man, the day we actually did everything was... I hate to say it this way, but it was stressful.
Well,
it was not... I mean, I was working all day long, but I'm on the phone with everybody, with all you guys, going back and forth, everything like that.
Gathering up our funds to put into the right location.
Everything.
Finding all the legal jargon.
We were just
stuff.
Oh my God.
Waiting for the tax stuff. That's why we're like, Georgia. Georgia sounds good. We're going to base everything in Georgia. And then it's going to be federally and all this other stuff, but
yeah.
We're a Georgia company.
Federal company. It is.
We are a federal company.
It's filed with both the state and the United States. So.
Right.
Yep.
And so this has been for a little while.
I can also let you know officially as of 4 minutes ago, it is now recognized in Raztopia as well.
Woo!
Well, you are a shareholder, Raz.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys have diplomatic immunity here now.
Yeah.
Diplomatic immunity.
You can all stab Guatemalan children together.
It's
a corporate retreat.
That was the shortest corporation.
Just to bring that up,
we can have corporate retreats now.
We can actually have corporate retreats.
Yeah.
The best part is the employee ID number where we can actually get discounts on like actual like hardware and stuff like that, like soundboards and PCs and everything like that, and actually start selling like even
we
better.
can do a corporate.
I mentioned something earlier actually that would you could totally claim and write off. I was talking about we rent this big RV and do this one podcast for half a year or something, or whenever, where we just go across the country and do all our bucket list shit and then turn it into a podcast.
We need to do that.
That would be so amazing.
That would be literally
This tastes like pumpkin bubblegum. It's not bad.
And then you can just get instead of normal passports, you can just get land passports for Canada and Mexico, and kind of continue the tour as you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude! Being able to go to different. Oh my gosh! So
I could actually collect a tiny tumbleweed.
They're not very tiny. They're about
tiny.
this big.
They don't start off as tiny either.
They're about this big when they start off.
Damn it! I want a tiny tumbleweed, something I can keep in a glass box.
When we finally if we finally get together to do our adventure at Spawn Ranch that we've been talking about here and there in the back chats and all this other stuff, We'll get you a tumbleweed to take back.
Okay,
They're all over out there.
Now, if we have a bucket list thing,
Will I have to check that into like carry-on baggage or something?
nah. Well, it depends on what country you go to, but I don't think they'll care much about it in like Canada or Mexico, though.
It could be my support tumbleweed. I'm sorry, it has to ride with me in the seat next to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
technically,
it?
there's a group of people that are trying to get me officially registered as a support cryptid. If we can make that happen, I'm sure you guys get me in all kinds of places.
I actually have a letter from my doctor that says that I need a support animal. The problem is my my mastiff is more neurotic than me, and
so y'all would just be a hot mess.
Yeah, my boxer is psychotic.
She has a.
Now, technically, humans are considered animals, so where is the line drawn here?
Well, my terrier is
Who's supporting who?
Madame Leota, and still wondering why she won't die.
She gives a look at me. I gave her a bump a bump. I didn't give her. I didn't give her a bump. I gave her a nudge with my foot.
No wonder she was running in circles.
I thought we were talking about getting a bump of something else, and I was like, no wonder
we're not
it's a
talking
bouncy.
That's what I said too.
We're not
talking about RX members.
We're not talking about meth clowns or anything like that.
Oh, I was thinking about another one, but okay. Woo.
But I was thinking,
is awful.
Originally, I was the beer that she's drinking is awful. If you guys are going to hear the audio, this is awful.
No, this beer is horrible.
It's a cider. Thank you.
Really, the first thing y'all should do is come to Ohio. And we'll do like this big, giant, like paranormal Ohio tour. You guys will never want to leave. I promise. It's crazy here, man.
Okay.
Ohio is the bomb with all the spooky stuff.
It really is.
I actually think that the first thing that we need to do is go to Bunny Man.
To what?
Bunny Man.
What is?
Yeah.
Bunny Man Bridge. I was thinking this was
we
like
could kidnap Steve.
Burning Man.
Well, I was thinking it was like Burning Man for bunnies, and
also
bunnies doing LSD and MDX or MDS and all that stuff, and just like
partying. Like Point Pleasant, like Mothman territory, is only like about a 3.5 hour drive for me too. It's not that far at all.
We can get pink eye if we see the Mothman, please.
No. You can only get pink eye from Scott Baio. Everybody knows that.
I'm so sorry for anybody that is light sensitive. I was not thinking right now. I am so fucking sorry.
Dick move.
Dick move on my part.
We were originally trying to become an actual cult, and then it just became a corporation.
We just screw it. It's too hard.
Somebody else decided to take the cult part, so we decided just to do this.
I thought she just checked the wrong box. I mean, aren't the boxes like corporation, cult, like right next to each other, and like?
Well, corporation is technically America's religion.
That's true. That's true.
Pinkies up. Pinkies up.
I'm drinking my beer from a wine glass. I'm very special.
What are we doing? Hold on.
Wait, we are now a corporation?
We are now a corporation. Show us the peppers. Show me the peppers.
No, that's
that reminds me of a joke, actually.
It wasn't the German.
This reminds me of a fantastic joke. Hexus, knock knock.
Who's there?
KGB.
KGB who?
People ask the questions. When you do that joke, you're actually supposed to smack the person across the face when you say it, but long distance.
Well, because I can't actually do it.
I'm a lot bigger than her.
But I wouldn't do it.
On a random note, I was looking at an old pic of us when we were doing our wedding pics, and like I was like looking at the size difference. I'm like way up here, and a call is like.
Couldn't even get her a step stool for the special day, man. Come on.
Even for the step stool, she's shorter.
Okay, so my prom pictures, because I didn't even go to my prom. I went to somebody else's prom. They put me up on three
apples high.
No, they put me up on 3 phone books. They stood me up on 3 phone books to make me take the picture with him.
And they're the yellow pages too, like the really thick ones.
No, they were like the ones that were like this thick each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The yellow pages, man.
Because my high school ex was probably around his size. So like
the funny thing is Virgil, your other ex, who's super cool. Like actually
6'7".
He's a super cool guy.
Pounds,
I'm tiny compared to him. I'm 6'1", like 250.
You realize we're already 30 minutes in, and we.
Okay.
So we're celebrating. We just got out of hand a little bit.
We're
Beer nasty fireball good. Okay.
So here's how we'll transition back into it. I found an island off the coast of Nova Scotia. It's only $47,000, right? It's $47,000, legitimately American dollars. And on this island, it's got its own boat, its own dock, fishermen quarters like to rent out, like to make money, and it's got a cabin that's got like everything hooked up for like I think it's like 5 or 6 bedrooms. So we should
talk about this.
Yeah. So we buy this for the company, and then we started a different kind of island, and bam, islands. We're talking about islands. Go.
Not that kind of island, though.
No, this is a different kind of island, but we're just talking about islands. So now, you know.
Okay.
we don't need an island where people come back and break down 25 years later.
That's not the kind of island we got going
We
on.
want to have a fun island.
We want to have
Not
a fun.
involved in
Matter of fact, that's what
pedophilia.
we'll call it, Fun Island.
Our island's gonna be Fun Island.
I think that's it.
Look.
I think
let's
it's like
go back in time.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
There's one more squirrel moment that I can't help because Alan, you are cracking me up right now.
Calvin said squirrel.
damn it, Alan.
Alan, this is awesome. What does a deaf person and a gynecologist have in common?
What?
They can both read lips.
Ah!
Thank you, Alan. And squirrel.
And squirrel.
All right, so we are no longer going to be paying attention to these. I am going to.
That's a lie, because I'm totally gonna read them all.
I made them go away so I can't look at them and squirrel out.
And Mother de la Mort will take the lead and start everything off right now.
Okay, all right.
Why
So-
am I
so we
sounding
are gonna
like
go-
NPR? I'm sounding just like NPR. We are
Easy listening.
And that's the rest of the story.
Talking about.
And that's the rest of the story.
It's Wednesday at 12:33 a.m. You're listening to absolutely nothing.
No, if it's 12:38. Oh, if it's 12:38 a.m., that's when I loved
The dog
NPR. Was,
scratching.
yeah.
Family Guy.
that's when you got ocean sounds and Beethoven. It was at 12. It was at 12 a.m. on NPR.
I do love some Beethoven.
We're on the radio very quietly because we do not want to wake up our mother from the basement.
All right.
All right. Okay, so we are going to go back
Go.
in time, and guys, this is where we're. So if this is a hard subject for you, we completely understand if you cannot stay for this particular episode. Yeah. So we're going to go back in time to Houston, Texas, August 8th of 1973. Now, this particular morning would be the morning that Dean Corll would be found dead. Now, Dean Corll was murdered, well, killed. But what the police found when they got there was basically 3 children standing outside the home, and basically one had shot Corll to death. So if you guys want to kind of give maybe some people out there that aren't familiar with Corll just a little bit of background of who Dean Corll was and kind of some of the things he did.
We should start off by pointing out though that we're not talking about Carl from Walking Dead or the memes, the Corll memes. This is an actual person.
Yeah, this is an actual person.
Corll, Corll. I had to go back and adjust that because I spelled it as in like coral reef.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
it's
will.
spelt wrong. I mean, spelt weird.
I will start off by he was known as the Candyman and the Pied Piper because he and his family had actually owned and operated a candy factory in Houston Heights.
Pralines. He made pralines.
They were famous for them. And he had actually been known to give free candy to local children, which is what gained him the name of Uncle Dean, basically. Like, they would just call him Uncle.
Can I add in something real fast here? So, we're going to do a Roosley Red segment here. I got to interrupt you. One of the things that happened with Dean Corll, while he went off to, he was drafted and he went off to war. And then his mother did call him back. They did give him the letter to come back. His mother, the Corll Candy Factory, whatever it was called, she didn't know that he was a child rapist even prior to that.
No.
So she set up the candy factory in front of an elementary school.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Dean Arnold Corll, he was born December 24th, 1939, and he died August 8th, 1973, as we had mentioned before. He was an American serial killer, pedophile. and he abducted, raped, and tortured and murdered a minimum of 28 teenage boys and young men between 1970 and 1973. And this was in Houston and Pasadena, Texas. He was aided by
Heights,
two teenage.
more specific. No, it was in Houston, but it was the Heights area where he did all of his killings.
Yes, he was aided by two teenage accomplices, David Owen Brooks and Elmer Wayne Henley.
And Albert Wayne Henley was one of the three children that was standing outside of the home the day that the police arrived.
Yes. The crimes, which became known as the Houston mass murders, came to light after Henley fatally shot Corll. Upon discovery, it was considered the worst example of serial murder in U.S. history at the time.
Now, the thing with David Wayne Henley and what was the other one's name again? I'm having a moment.
Brooks. Last name was Brooks.
Brooks.
It's David Owen Brooks and Elmer Wayne
Henley. I'm sorry. I always do that, especially with the David Ray or David Parker Ray. Okay. I'm sorry. But anyway, these two, it was already suspected they actually possibly had accomplices prior to them that he just said, screw it, I'm done with them, and put them on his rape board and killed them and did whatever he did with them. But these two were specifically groomed from a young age. They were coming to the candy shop prior to all this other stuff and was already being molested by him and groomed.
Well, and then it went buying them cars. And
I think it was
motorcycles and different things like that. I think.
Yeah,
he bought him a 4-screen Corvette. Yeah,
there's a very famous book series actually about all this by Roald Dahl. It's called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. True story. Look it up.
So, Corll's victims were typically lured with an offer to party or a lift to a various address in which he resided between, those dates, that 1970 to 1973. They would then be restrained either by force or deception. And deception was, let me show you a trick.
The handcuffs.
The magic handcuffs.
Yep.
Now,
these are going
to
come up later on. The magic handcuffs are going to come up.
Well, that and the board, yes. The board is going to tie in. The one thing that didn't tie in was his van, which was Dean Corll's van was its own torture vehicle, basically. Like he did a lot of messed things in there too. But they don't. Yeah. There was no correlation.
So after this. Or after they were restrained, each of them were either strangled or shot with a .22 pistol. Corll and his accomplices buried 17 of their victims in a rented boat shed. 4 other ones were buried in a woodland area near Lake Sam Rayburn. 1 victim was buried on a beach in Jefferson County, and at least 6 of the victims were buried on a beach in Bolivar Peninsula. Brooks and Henley confessed to assisting Corll in several abductions and murders, and both were sentenced to life imprisonment at their subsequent trials. Now, so, one of the things that always floored me was them confessing.
Well, it wasn't them. David Brooks so David Brooks died of COVID in 2020. And he was quiet from the moment things went down. He actually tried to leave, and he actually did get away. It was what's his face, who
Palmer.
even though he killed Corll, the crazy thing is all he had to do was be quiet, and they would have been known as he would have been known as heroes, and Brooks would have lived his life.
That's what I just said.
No, I'm saying that it wasn't Brooks. Though was not Brooks to the day of his death was never said a word about it.
But that's what I just said was they just had to shut the hell up.
Well, and the thing is, because one of the you'll find some conversation about this. And the one thing that Henley, I think it was Henley mostly, maybe not so much Brooks, but Henley mostly said that one of the reasons that he went along with all this, which there's some controversy on whether he really enjoyed it himself, because there were, observations that he had very little empathy, except when he spoke with his mom. he would get pretty upset and show emotion when he spoke with his mom. But the fact that Dean Corll, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say you can actually find Elmer Wayne Hindley's phone call. They recorded it because one of the reporters had a cell phone at the time, a car phone. I'm sorry, and they did actually have it recorded in the car when he's outside of the boat shed, and he is visible. He is very visibly, or you can hear that he's very emotional talking to his mom about it. But then when he gets to everything else,
why did the toadies just pop into my head?
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
but the main thing that Henley brought up when the detectives asked him, look, why did you go along with this? And he said that Dean Corll basically told both him and Brooks, if I'm not mistaken, I know that for sure Henley, that there was an organization which Dean Corll was a part of out of Dallas, Texas, that sold boys, and they would basically come after both Brooks and Henley if they were to say anything or tell anybody about what Dean Corll was doing. Now, the police did wind up looking into this supposed international trafficking ring or child trafficking ring in Dallas, but nothing came of it. However, 3 years later, and 1,300 miles north, it wound up happening again. And this would take place on an island in Lake Michigan. And that island is known as North Fox Island, which could only be accessed by air, which was extremely similar to Epstein's Island.
The crazy thing about that is even trying to find stuff on this, even on Bing or whatnot, even on that, like it's hard. Everything on the internet, because you can, if you got money, you can pay
throw Google away. If you're going to do investigative research, throw Google away.
You got to be using Firefox or whatever else you can.
Bing,
you can
Firefox,
DuckDuckGo.
Yeah.
No, actually, even Bing, it's hard because everything we have on here is Bing. It's hard to find stuff on this island.
The Go Fetch one.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one. You also have to keep in mind there's a very interesting thing in Michigan that ties into this as well. And I'm actually serious about this time for a change. It's called the Michigan Triangle. It's basically a smaller version of the Bermuda Triangle. But a lot of disappearances happen in this area. Entire ships have gone, like planes have crashed and gone missing. Ships have gone missing. Like large amounts of people have just gone missing.
I've heard of that.
And
I've heard of that.
Some of the missing things and some of the things that involve this island, because it's where this island we're talking about is not that far away from it. Part of Lake Michigan is in the Michigan Triangle, so there was a lot of early on things as far back as then that people were just attributing to the mystery of the Michigan Triangle, which is it's really odd when you think about like how this connects to that. It's weird,
man. One of the things that's like actually pretty crazy though, even like thinking about this, because I know we're going to really get into this, and I might be jumping ahead here, but when you're thinking about like all these, I do because I'm 5 miles ahead.
Listen, man, this is not a choose your own adventure. You don't jump from page 2 to 47. It
is for me. I draw outside the lines because that's just who I am.
Yeah, you let me be myself.
I'm just being myself over here. The 70s, looking a lot of this stuff up and reading these podcasts, listening to these podcasts, and other things. Come to find out that a lot of the trafficking laws, human trafficking laws, at the time only applied to girls, and the reason why
only
it was
girls.
It was very, very, very much set up for male trafficking, to where they wouldn't even
insane.
It is to think about it. They wouldn't even consider it as like, oh, he went missing while he just ran off and went to go work. He's 5.
Well, that was one of the things that I think probably helped a lot of serial killers and like serial predators, was the fact that people's mindsets were different back then. Everybody felt they were in like some sort of insulated bubble and nothing bad could happen. And so anytime that a child disappeared, unless the child was extremely young, it would always be ruled as a runaway, and that's just how society in general saw a lot of disappearance or child disappearances as simply runaways, when probably, in fact, it really wasn't.
I dare say that carried over into the 80s, especially
True.
like
True.
growing up on the farms and stuff like that. And I mean, and like you grew up in I want to say the rural areas too, and especially in Georgia and stuff like that, like where like you still like in the 80s and
I did
90s,
not.
people like kept their doors open. They didn't care about it. Like when someone went missing, it was like, well, they'll just show back up again. And 90% of the time they did show back up again. But it was just, it's insane to think about now that people just let it go.
And there were no like national databases. There were no like predatory lists or this police force in touch with this police force. So
exactly
any type of child molestation or child crime, it didn't get very far.
Right.
I have never once lived in an area that allowed me to leave my door unlocked.
Oh dear God!
We did.
I definitely did.
I did. Bakersfield was that way for a long time.
Anaheim. Okay, we're not that far from Disneyland.
Right.
You would think that it would be a decent area, but no.
Well, you guys had to deal with.
We also had in our area. Do you guys remember when they let out all the asylums?
I was gonna say
actually. What happened here too? Yeah.
So when the president decided that they were shutting down all the asylums,
I think it was Reagan, wasn't it?
It was Reagan.
Yeah.
When Reagan decided that he was shutting down all the asylums and he signed that order, what they did was just let them out. Bye.
Yeah.
No, nothing. They didn't have, clothes. They just had maybe clothes on their back, maybe. They didn't have places to go. Some of them might have gone to family, but a lot of them ended up on the streets. And
a lot of them were wards of the state. And you can go down a whole rabbit hole about institutionalization. And some of the reasons for it were really quite stupid, like mom.
Oh my God, she's hysterically having her period.
She's hysterical
or
right
mom
now.
dies and dad can't handle these kids. They're out of control, so they must have something wrong with them. So we'll institutionalize them.
I hate to bring up like fiction to prove a point, but American Horror Story Asylum, like the weird reason people were just randomly getting put into asylums, like that was actually pretty legit.
It was real. It was real. Yeah.
Actually, if you're talking about fiction, I was actually going to bring up L.A. Noire. And
that as well, that's a good one.
Video game?
No, L.A. L.A. Noire, not the video game.
That was a good video game.
What was the movie called with not Kurt Russell, but Guy Pearce and L.A. Confidential. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Confidential.
One of my favorite movies, and I was like L.A. Noire.
I knew what you were talking about too.
Video game?
No, that was actually based off a lot of real stuff that happened, and then you had Jack Nicholson's movie that was based
One
in
Flew Over the
Orange.
Cuckoo's Nest. Mm-hmm.
Well, Chinatown or Chinatown.
So
Chinatown was some fucked up shit that happened in Orange County.
I'm gonna gradually do a sentence here. My point was that we lived near an asylum.
Mm-hmm.
We lived near, literally walking distance, where they had one of these places. One of the hospitals that was across the street from my house was there. There was one in it. So when these people got let out, there was this one guy, I can remember when I was really young, this guy that would walk up the street and run back. Walk up the street, run back. And this is like all day long, okay? Like,
there's exercise in.
He would just stroll on up the street, run back.
Well, they weren't given any medications or anything like that to help control whatever was going on with them. So
once they were kicked out of the
that was it.
Once they were released, the state literally was like, "Not our problem."
Well, and then to top it off,
this is a local problem. Yeah.
I lived off of one of the exits that serial killer that was taking people from
William Bonin.
No. He was whatever. He was a serial killer that actually was murdering by taking people from Long Beach over at Ripples, the Gacy killer.
The scorecard killer.
Yes, scorecard killer. So I lived off of the one of the off ramps that he left a body, and that off ramp was so easy to leave a body unseen because there were lots of trees and lots of homeless people that lived in those trees, and lots just it. Now, when you go by it, it's very open.
The California freeway system
it's
is so
very
easy.
very open.
The California freeway system is so easy to leave a body anywhere.
Well, it was super easy, you know, just to get away with all kinds. Like now that you look back, because hindsight's 2020. Look back and think, God, people could have gotten away with anything, back then, because there was not a whole lot of ways to really keep track of people.
If we were doing this show in the 70s, we could have just created our own show content. That's terrible to say that. I'm sorry.
But basically, so it's always been interesting to me that people even had moments that they would leave the door unlocked. When I moved to the South, I had moved into a town where it was common that people still left their doors unlocked. And it freaked me the fuck out.
That was the early 2000s or 2000s, wasn't it?
That was around 2006-ish.
Well, there's still technically places here in Georgia where you can do that.
I mean,
it's insane.
The town that I moved to, that didn't work. The town that I moved to was called Murray City, and it was population under 1,000. The big attraction was they had a cotton gin, and there was a gas station. There were no grocery stores. You could get some groceries over at the gas station if you wanted to. There was a big cemetery in the middle of town. If you crossed over the railroad tracks, it really was the other side of the tracks. They still had wooden sidewalks in town.
Oh wow, that is old.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I mean, they had a fabrication shop in town. They had a few little like tiny shops and stuff in town, but it was nothing major. You really had to go about 30 minutes in just to get groceries or anything like that. There was no real grocery store there. And people still left their doors unlocked. The church would talk shit on newcomers on their church signs.
Love it.
I witnessed that. I was the subject of one of them.
6'1" Viking.
And this is actually a good segue into this, because there was a lot of trust. There was a lot of trust in leaving your doors unlocked. There was a lot of trust in the church. There was a lot of trust in pastors. There was a lot of trust in governmental agencies. And one of the things that, and I know you guys probably did too, is that you start seeing that there were a lot of these serial pedophiles that took advantage of children that were poor.
It was insane too.
They would offer. No, you're right. It was insane.
It was insane. Not to interject. Like, I don't mean to stop your train of thought there, but even like in the 70s with the serial pedophiles at the time were like, oh, you touched this boy, you did whatever you did to this boy or girl or whatnot, we're going to go ahead and put you in jail for 6 months and then you can get back to your life. Sorry about that, buddy. It was so crazy back then.
The more money you had, the less time that you spent. But kind of moving, talking about the North Fox Island now, how it came about was in the summer of 1976. It was basically built as a boys' camp, which would later be found, again, to be a front for a nationwide child pornography ring. Now, in August of
100% real.
Yeah, this is for real. In August of 1976, that ring was exposed by a young journalist first from the Traverse City Eagle. Now, once everything was said and done, there was only one arrest, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit. You may recognize the name when we kind of get into it a little bit, but there was only one arrest, and then it was basically forgotten for almost 30 years. It just kind of got swept under the rug. Now, in July of 2020, a former Detroit news reporter, a Marnie, I believe it is Rich Keenan, wrote a book called The Snow Killings. Now, inside the snow killings, inside the investigation into the Oakland County child killings, which had a connection with North Fox Island. Now, in this book, there was a chapter on Fox Island. It was strongly suspected that 4 kids in the case of the Oakland County child killings were being used in a child pornography ring, or were used in child pornography before they were killed. Now, during the investigation, Detective Corey Williams identified a child pornography ring operating out of Cass Corridor in Detroit, which again had connection with what I was just talking about. Now, the detective in the case also had leads that the Cass Corridor ring was being financed by the same man that was behind the Fox Island ring and actually purchased Fox Island and set it up as the boys' camp. Now, this man's name was Francis or Frank Sheldon. He was a wealthy real estate developer and served on many prominent boards in the area. Now, in 1960, he purchased the island and installed an airstrip along with cabins, and wound up becoming a multi-millionaire. His organization wound up becoming a multi-million-dollar child pornography operation. Now, how they got away with that, of course, back in the day, you didn't have internet, you didn't have digital, you didn't have all these types of subscription services. It was mostly done by mail. And we're going to kind of get into one of the leading victims that kind of helped to shed some light on this and push some investigations forward into some other areas of the United States. But it was mostly done by mail. And the way that his pornography ring would work was most were sold by mail. But the filming, what they found was that the filming locations were from all over the country. Like there wasn't just, like one studio that was located on Fox Island. There were boys that were being abused from all over the place here in the United States. The island itself was framed as a boys' camp for underprivileged boys, and Sheldon would fly his friends in. Sheldon was not, however, a grifter that made a lot of money by basically being a predator on these boys. He actually came from a very prestigious family that had a long history in Michigan itself. Now, Sheldon eventually would not even be charged for any crimes, even though one of probably what some will recognize. Go ahead.
Was Sheldon the one who was a part of his family was bigwigs in GM the GM factories and stuff like that, like the General Motors and stuff like that?
I don't know. I know that they had a lot of history, a lot of historical history in the area of Michigan, or in actually the state of Michigan, I do believe.
This ran deep with the car. Like I think Ford was the only one that didn't have anything to do with this, but I think it was GM. These were bigwigs in GM.
Yeah, and that's kind of a reoccurring thing. Too.
Yeah. And then going back to politics and stuff like that, not trying to get into politics, but then that's when you also had senators and union reps being a part of this stuff. Not to say anything bad about unions, but I'm just saying.
Right. And we're going to kind of get into some of that tonight. I know we probably won't be able to get to everything that we wanted to cover. But yeah, that's kind of a reoccurring thing that I noticed was the fact that, these weren't just the creepy old man that, wants to peep in on children. This went from every economic, status, from the very poor all the way up to the rich and powerful.
it's just insane to think about. Like when you
Yeah.
think about like this is where it comes back even to like Epstein. It's like, why do you guys do this? You have all
Well,
this
you know,
money in the world.
but that's the thing. I mean, you know, we were kind of talking about that last time, and that is kind of a thing that you will see, and you're seeing it some today, which is, in my opinion, absolutely disgusting, is the fact that child pedophiles don't see what they're doing as wrong. They
No.
see it as a lifestyle, and they don't see the young children as victims, but more as partners.
They see it as
it's
I
very
came up to
disturbing.
the kid and I was like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And then they're like, "Yeah, let's do this." Okay, it was completely consensual. Look, if you're underage, it's not consensual. You don't know what the fuck you're doing.
No,
And
it's not.
You are a fucking predator, and you should absolutely be put down because of that. If anybody thinks this in any way, shape, or form is okay to go after a kid, and just because they said yes. No, it's not okay in any way, shape, or form. You should be put down. I hate to say it that way.
It's not your, you know, and I hate to even refer to it this way. It's like traditional, you know, like child, you know, sexual abuse. Like you had a lot of like subgenres that would get into what was like the diaper pail society. I mean, just things that I did not even want to look into. Like they were.
The weirder part of it is there were a lot of people that were trying to like get inclusion into the LGBTQ plus like you know era of things. Yeah, like because it was a lifestyle and like that caused a huge uproar a couple years ago.
Yeah,
the
thing that was crazy to me is people tried to sit there and be like, "Oh, that was a joke. That was somebody trying to make everybody look bad." No. It wasn't a joke. There are people who genuinely think that this is okay. That it's they call it like so there is something called ageism, and that is a legitimate term like used within work. Like like
discrimination.
Oh yeah, in work and stuff like that.
Like discrimination, like between for age. But they were trying to utilize it as in, well, you're discriminating me via ageism. Because I like somebody that is blah, blah, blah years old, younger than me. Yeah, well, that person that's blah, blah, blah years younger than you is a minor.
Yes.
And
there are organizations out there that are specifically geared to help with legal defenses.
Yeah. No, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Which is,
we know the big one that's South Park.
NAMBLA.
The one at South Park. Yeah.
The scary part is NAMBLA is not fake.
Not one
bit.
It's
not. It's not.
That's when they did the episode.
They came up, and that's kind of part of all this.
Scary. That's the terrifying thing is like you would think that it was something funny that South Park made up.
Oh no, South Park is actually
they were trying to bring it forward.
They make up very little.
Yeah, they make up very, very little. Except for the NAMBLA song.
There were even publications. There were even publications for child predators. Of course, a lot of it would be in code in you know, like want ads and notices and things like that. But yeah, there were publications that would come in the mail.
You brought up earlier a few minutes ago about how like how they they did their publications with their zines and stuff like this, and like actually and by the way, like
that was a few seconds ago.
I'm sorry, but I said a few minutes ago.
That was sorry. Like seconds.
I'm an old man.
I didn't realize there were that much of a delay.
It was back in the day, and everybody knows that back in the day, you're always referring to a Wednesday.
Night at 7 p.m.
Sunday.
We're still Tuesday.
We were talking about for a second, a few seconds ago. Now it's been a minute. That they had their magazines or their zines because we're all old punk rockers and metalheads here, so that's what we called them.
I wouldn't call that a zine. I would call that.
They really did have that.
But you did have your basement printing presses.
You did have that,
and you would have your mailing lists and all that kind of stuff for like your punk rock little flyers and magazines.
There's two things I was going to say right here. Oh, that's better. Thank you.
I should change your lighting. Had it on red.
I like red, but anyway, there's two things I'm going to say right here. Here is one. These guys, when they got arrested, they were able to continue their publications in prison because at the time prison was very lax in the 70s. Two, when you're talking about hiding things and how they didn't have the internet at the time, they didn't have the social media at the time. I actually dare say it's easier for them to hide things in the mass media, in mass social media, and how they do things now. Because there's so much information coming at people now, and they're so glued on whatever's going on in what social media,
Well,
via Instagram, via Facebook, or whatnot.
Everything's called fake news, even when it's real.
Yeah,
Right.
it's so easy. It's just
Scary.
it's scary as fuck now to think about. Like,
you can bring up legitimate things that you witnessed, and within
You're being
days,
told you're wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
it's fake news. Yeah, you didn't
It'll be
see
fake
what
news.
you thought you saw. You saw what we're telling you
Well,
you saw.
prior to
Right.
the pandemic, you had a whole bunch of podcasts going off about like how Pizzagate probably was real, or you had all these other podcasts going off about like look into the Epsteins, look into this other stuff. This might be real, and then when everything was all done and concluded, Giselle Maxwell is in prison now, or
Gosling
Gosling Maxwell.
Madam Douche
Gasoline.
Yeah.
Gasoline Maxwell is all in prison now, and
Gasoline.
now everyone is so willing to sweep this under the rug. And mind you, all these big podcast groups, networks who were prior to this were like, "Oh, we're going to talk about this. And this is totally real." Now the big ones who are actually getting big advertising, and when you look at them, they're like, "No,
We never
none
said
of this
that.
stuff happens.
We never
This is
said
all
that at
just
all."
hearsay." I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Well, and kind of going, to kind of touching on that, like when Sheldon was eventually caught and he went to court, there was a boy by the name of Michael Fuqua. And I've heard his name before I really started,
What
really
was this Michael
diving.
do?
Michael
Fuqua?
Fuqua.
Okay.
Yeah. Now he wound up testifying against Sheldon. And the kind of the way that Michael Fuqua got involved with Sheldon was basically it was a teacher of his. And I can't remember if the teacher taught at his school or if he was part of like the YMCA or something like that.
I think I know I think he was part of the YMCA or something like that. It wasn't just like he was like a professor more than anything else, wasn't he?
Something like that. And you'll start to see like kind of a reoccurring like pattern of these child predators. They will insert themselves into positions and positions of authority to where they have access to young boys. But once I got to like really getting into like the story of Michael Fuqua and how, because it wound up being this teacher or professor that wound up kind of introducing him to Frank Sheldon. But I saw a lot of similarities, and I can see where maybe the director or the, maybe writer had gotten their inspiration for the most recent kind of thriller, Black Phone. Because this was one of the things that the professor / teacher kind of pulled Michael Fuqua in was magic tricks. Tricks. He was a magician, and he had magic ropes versus magic handcuffs. And these, basically Michael Fuqua would be his assistant in these, magic shows and things like that would kind of carry on into sexual things behind the scenes with his magic ropes. And then it turned into pornography.
We turned into pornography, and then it turned into prostitution.
Yes.
I do now. I
prostitution.
actually remember.
Yes.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
It was and then I want to say that's where the trips to. Well, we're gonna get into this. I'm sorry.
Right. But yeah, it started off with the pornography, and that's what got Sheldon's attention was the pornography, because basically that's how he made a lot of his money that he didn't already have. And Michael Fuqua did, from what I understand, spent a lot of time at that island and basically was at the service of Sheldon's rich friends that flew in, which is very similar to another case, the Epstein Island. So,
sorry.
it's
Some
okay.
things were we thought we were getting lagged down on Facebook, but I think it's just X out of it real fast, and it'll go back into it, and it'll work fine.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Technical stuff.
You didn't really have to
There
say
you
it
go.
out loud. I was just letting everyone know. And there was no reason to poke me in the side.
I like poking you.
That's what she said.
Wait a second.
Pegging.
I was thinking about something else too, because we talked a lot earlier about like the situation with like different asylums and stuff, but it goes beyond that. And another point in which children were being taken was from orphanages. That was a big deal. I mean, and that stretched also that stretched from Michigan also down into Ohio back then as well, because the state of orphanages in Ohio was insane, and the problem started back in the 20s when the Great Flood that pretty much drowned everything and everyone here in Dayton, well before I was born. But our system here, you know, for homeless children, and you either literally went to an orphanage or you got put in an asylum if you were a child. But you would get passed around to a lot of people in a lot of homes before that happened. And that was, I know, a big problem, an even bigger problem in Michigan during that time. And there was a lot of people that believed that some of the initial children that ended up on that island were actually being funneled in from Ohio and Michigan orphanages.
Yeah.
Well, and I think they were probably funneled in from a lot of different places.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely a lot of places. But, like, that was, like, where they had the most, I guess, contacts at, like, I guess, on a local level, because it was super easy to get all these kids, because they were literally kids that no one wanted, and you have these rich people who could just adopt as many kids. They didn't question. You had money. Oh, these kids need a place to go. You've got money. They're going to be great. There wasn't any, you know, paperwork. There was nothing. It was just, okay, they're your kids now. And that was a lot happened.
That before a lot of these laws got changed federally, which is because of some of these cases we'll come to find out later, it was a minor misdemeanor to sell your child. A minor.
Oh, exactly. That was another thing. Yeah, you could literally sell your kid and be like, I don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
It's that bringing up the Louisiana thing.
The mother that sold her 4 boys for $10,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like,
and there was very little the cops could do.
She got caught
here in Ohio.
Slap on the wrist.
Even here in Ohio, sometimes what you would do instead of an orphanage, you would actually get sent to a work camp for like a farm and all kinds of things like that. I know my wife's mother, that's very similar to that happened to her and her family, and even now still, they'll find a family member that they didn't know existed, and they'll all get in contact again.
Right.
They still find each other frequently, so I got to learn a lot about that side of things, actually, you know, from her family. So it was, it's intense, man. There's a lot of insanity.
And you know, I'd say, you know, anybody interested in this, look into more of the story on Michael Fuqua, because there's a lot there that we're not even like touching base on. So
it's that whole thing right there, especially because that's when you're actually going to get into the thing that ties the magic trick that actually Dean Corll and we haven't even started on Gacy yet, which is
right. And a lot of this is gonna a lot of this it's kind of gonna go back and forth. You're gonna feel like you're like in a Guy Ritchie movie, because we're gonna go back and forth. But
we're gonna Tarantino this shit.
Oh yeah,
we should have started at the
much.
End. Gacy
and
was
work
murdered
backwards.
in 1991.
And we'll all do this like super
worked
weird like
either
musical
way.
thing at the very end of the last episode.
Yeah,
So then we're
it would have worked.
Millionaire.
Yeah.
But now during
Slumdog Millionaire.
During the investigation, though, a detective, Corey Williams, identified, like I said, the child pornography ring. Wait, did I already go over that?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
I already went over that. Okay, so in the 1960s, he purchased, and I went over that too, didn't I? Yes, I did.
Yep.
So where am I at?
Yeah.
Okay.
You are
Okay,
in
so-
Georgia right now.
Yes, I am in Georgia right now, so I'm just trying to figure.
Je ne sais pas.
Because this does jump back and forth. Like, you're going to
It does.
hear a lot about Detroit
sorry.
and a lot about Chicago and things like that a little bit further. But one of the things that Michael did say was that he was convinced that because basically he was kind of seen as like a show thing. Like, he would help to, you know, bring other, you know,
He
like
was being-
groups
he
of
was also-
pedophiles in to Sheldon's ring, and
he was being groomed by Sheldon, is what
Yeah.
was going on here, and
Yeah.
just like with Dean Corll and with Gacy,
Mhm.
even though Gacy,
but
they never really,
Sheldon was like about expanding his empire.
he very
was
much
about
was. So
expanding
he
his
just
empire.
he wasn't about killing or anything like that. He just
Mm-mm.
This is where you get into the whole rape side of things. Whereas Coral was, hey, bring these people in, or bring these kids in, and I'm going to do whatever I want with them and kill them, and then whatever's going on with the ring that they had that he was associated with.
Mhm.
Which I do have my own theory on what was really going on with the pedophile ring that was associated with Coral and even Gacy. And I know we're going to get into Gacy later on, but with Sheldon, it was all about. It was basically just all about the sex and the prostitution and stuff like that. He didn't want
And
to
the
kill
money.
anybody.
The money.
And the money.
Yeah, and power, I guess, really, when it comes
Yeah.
right down to it, it's power.
Well,
Is
all
anyone
that,
else suppressing the urge to just say Bazinga? Because every time we say Sheldon, that's what's in my brain. Maybe just keep saying Sheldon over and over and over again. I just Bazinga.
It's okay. As soon as everyone was like sex and the money and power, I'm remembering that clothing line from like early 2000s, SMP, which was sex, money, power.
Sex, money, power. Yeah. So, but anyway, so Michael Fuqua, he was convinced that he did visit another boys' camp in Tennessee. Now, this was a place that Sheldon sponsored through donation. It was called the Boys Farm, Inc., which was ran by a defrocked priest by the name of Bud Vermeil.
I mean,
That's the name.
I don't mean to laugh, but the Boys Farm Inc. Come on.
Well,
Like,
it was
could
kind
we
of
have been
basically
more
the same
obvious
thing.
what the hell it was?
Well,
and then it being run by a defunct priest?
See, when I hear like
So-
Boys Farm, though, I'm thinking Motel Hell, and they're like buried up to their necks, and they're like being gardened.
right.
No,
Well, that's the
no.
thing. Like
We
it
went
was
there.
put across as we can give all these underprivileged boys a place to go. That we can give them
Right.
education, we can give them whatever, either the state if they're awarded the
Skills.
state or
Crazy
skills.
thing is they actually
Why
Why do I
You know,
have
things
Motown
like that.
Philly stuck in my head?
they actually did give them. They actually did start to give them the education or whatnot or
They
the skills,
started
but they're
to.
no, they did.
Yeah.
They actually did
Oh, yeah.
do that. It was basically like, okay, you're going to school on these days, and then on the weekends you're a prostitute. I mean, I hate.
Well,
to be
because
so,
they think they're truly providing for these children. That, like I
Exactly.
said, they have no idea or
fucking brutal,
empathy. What they're doing to these children.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So in 2010, a judge ordered the organization, the Boy Scouts of America, referred to these will be referred to as the perversion file, to go public. Now, basically, there had been some things going on, and they were to provide a list of any troop masters, anybody involved within the Boy Scouts of America that had some sort of previous arrests and things like that for pedophilia and things of a predatory nature like that.
That should have been something that was scanned already.
Do
You'd be
what?
surprised. You'd be surprised.
That should have been something that was like looked into already.
You know,
see, go ahead.
You have to look at these. You have to look at when looking at history, and I've actually had arguments with people, like political arguments, in the past when like looking at like the Constitution or whatnot, or like the founding fathers. I was like, when you look at history, you have to look at it in those same eyes from at the time.
Yeah, you have
We're
to look
looking
at it
at-
within content.
We're looking at it
Context.
from
Still.
stuff from now, and
I'm
at the
not-
time that didn't exist.
No. I'm sorry. I'm not looking at it from then. I mean, from now or then. I'm looking at it from logic. If there was somebody that was a sex offender, it should have already been known from them having gone, to prison or
They
jail.
didn't talk.
Or being,
It doesn't
Yeah,
work
but
that
see,
way at
back
all.
then
though.
You didn't
No.
have background checks.
Well, let's-
You sometimes didn't even have to show your driver's license.
Let's jump ahead to Gacy real fast, just for a second here. Okay, so Gacy first started raping and sexually abusing teenagers in Iowa. He went to jail for a year in Iowa. Well, then when he went back to Chicago, he started doing the same thing, but they didn't communicate with Iowa, so he never got put back. He was on parole and probation or whatnot. He never got put back into prison because they never communicated.
As far as Iowa was considered, he had a clean record.
Exactly. So Iowa's like, it's not our problem.
I mean, to go back to the Boy Scout
thing. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that's still in court now because what happened was a big chunk of the people that run the Boy Scouts, like the national, I guess, company or charity, whatever you call it, decided that they wanted to kind of get away from a lot of the stigma about, like Scouts and, what was happening with their Scoutmasters, similar to kind of what the Catholic Church did. And there is still a big ongoing case that's tied in with their bankruptcy case. They decided to declare bankruptcy in order to pay out all the victims. And this is a big deal for me because I'm actually one of the victims in this case. I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I went through some insane things in the 80s involving a lot of this. That's it's been very hard for me to kind of face, and honestly, this is the first time I've ever spoken about it in public, so it's kind of tough for me. And the only reason why I am speaking about it, and I even joined the case to begin with, it was sort of something my wife talked me into because I've always been a big fan of the Scouts. Like even when things are badly happening to me, and even well after that, it's an organization that when it's done right, I have a lot of support. There's a lot of support for me for that sort of thing. But it's really hard because when you think about all this and how far these roots go, and when they say that there was no accounting for this, if you've never been in the Scouts, what you need to know is anyone in your community can decide to have a troop and sign up for it. That's it. That's how easy it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah. And it's usually
because they're usually somebody the community knows.
Yep, and it's usually someone involved with a church, or sometimes, in our case, it was actually a pastor, and unfortunately in my case. So that's how lax it was. It was just, this person in the community has got a big name, he's definitely got to be a good guy because no one's ever said anything bad, and then bam. And then in the 90s, you saw it go, instead of that, to, because of all these bad things that were happening throughout the 80s and early 90s, it all switched over to parents. It was the parents of the Scouts that were actually, kind of supporting the Scouts, and you'd have your Scout meetings at a parent's house where, there was multiple adults present. And so, at least in Ohio, it changed in a lot of big ways and got away from a lot of the church organizations. Because a lot of those church organizations are involved in this lawsuit/bankruptcy case. The Mormon Church is a big part of it, and there's a lot of stuff involving what we're talking about actually with the island. There's a big chunk of that involves the Mormon Church as well, that leads into the Boy Scout case and a lot of other stuff. So you've got the Mormon Church and the Catholic Church that are heavily wrapped up in this bankruptcy case. Dozens of high-profile insurance companies that are now realizing, oh shit, we've got to pay out these damages. So this is going to be an ongoing court case probably for years from now.
There were so many claims years after I think this list went public. There were so many claims against the Boy Scouts of America. They wound up having to file bankruptcy protection. Basically,
and
it's
the
what
sad
they did.
Part is that I have a cousin who, it's not sad because I'm happy that he's in a good troop. He's in a successful troop. He's got a great troop leader or whatever, scout leader. I don't know. I'm obviously
scout leader,
I wasn't even in Girl Scouts. Okay. But like most of the people around me were. But my cousin, he's going for Eagle Scout.
Oh yeah, man.
And it's great to see when you have it done right.
Yes,
but
that's why I still support it.
Is things being tarnished like that, where these really good programs, and I'm going to even throw out there YMCA, an amazing program that has had issues in the same manner.
And great music.
But see, this is the thing. A pedophile will insert them. They're almost like a terrorist sleeper cell. It's basically a really good way to look at them. They will insert themselves into any institution. It doesn't make that institution bad. It's just by the pure nature of the fact the YMCA has boys programs and things like that. The Boy Scouts of America, they have boys programs. So a child predator is going to
go after
insert
exactly
themselves into any situation no matter how long it takes until they can get to the point to where they can take advantage of these children. So
Yeah.
I can't really blame the Boy Scouts of America. And there's a reason why we're bringing this up, and I'm going to kind of get this wrapped up a little bit because I know it's getting late and we've been on for almost 2 hours. But it's people trusted back then. They trusted these institutions, and they trusted, say, you know,
It was blind faith,
social
basically.
services and orphanages and YMCA's, and you know,
These are places that you're supposed to be able to trust.
Right.
Right.
Can
And
I
so
bring
the
something
reason,
up real fast?
yeah,
Real quick. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, Natalie.
No, it's okay.
Mother, I'm sorry. You have these pedos who are they're predators and hunters. That's what they do. They hunt.
they're hunters. That's a very good way to
They know exactly how to get their prey, and it doesn't matter what era it is. They know how to insert themselves. They know how to be nice. And the one thing, the big misconception of like serial killers or predators or whatnot, that they're these, you know, these disheveled men or women or whatnot who are like frothing at the mouth, ready to murder people. They're not. They're actually very nice people. And the reason why they're very nice people is because they are trying their hardest and they know how to manipulate and pull these people in. I'll use, for example, and the reason why this brought up, popped in my head, Ted Bundy was a suicide hotline operator.
Right.
And a good one.
And a very good one.
Good one.
He had empathy. He knew what he was doing. And it's not that these people, these monsters, don't have empathy. They just know how to, they don't view people or children.
They don't think what they're doing is wrong.
They don't think what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
Nor do they view them as equals or people. They view them as objects.
Well, it's a certain demographic in all these cases. It's when you're talking about Bundy, it was women that reminded him of that one girl who slighted him.
Well, exactly.
When you're talking about Gacy, it's young men. When you're talking about Dahmer, that's a sad one, and that's not really a demographic. Well, it kind of is still again demographic.
It was the same thing.
But it was him not wanting these people to leave, but also he thought they were beautiful, and he was.
And they were pretty young, right? If I remember correctly,
they ranged. There was a specific one that was around 14, but the rest of them seemed to range up a little bit higher than that, but still, because he did tend to hunt more at a specific gay bar and these bathhouses.
I think we actually.
But he ran into Conrack.
We could leave Dahmer out of that part of it because he wasn't exactly hunting. I think he was just fucking lonely as shit.
He was low. That's what I was trying to say. But he did kind of have a demographic. Beautiful gay men. I mean, there we go. Beautiful gay men. That was his demographic. And
you know what's crazy? How is it that we're all so protected? It's like so weird.
We're protective.
We're protective of Dahmer. Like Dahmer is like, we're like, dude, you guys leave Dahmer alone. Look, he did some fucked up shit. He doesn't
leave Dahmer alone.
Leave Dahmer alone.
No, it's not even that. It's because
it's sad.
It's sad. His entire life is sad. It doesn't excuse what he did, but had he had the medical help that he kept basically begging for,
Dahmer reminds me of a real life.
He probably
Norman
wouldn't
Bates.
have done the things that he did.
His life was a tragedy.
Yeah,
it was all.
I mean, even Kemper.
No, Kemper deserves.
No, he deserves to be where he is. Don't get me wrong, but he was created by his mother.
I would love to sit down and talk to Kemper, but he's a fucked up
absolutely
person.
created by his mother. But again, demographics. He went after college-aged girls within his area, generally at the school that his mother taught at.
Right.
And that was all going up to his one, which is crazy that he went after college women, because really his target was his mom.
But you know, my point.
But it makes sense if his mom worked at the school. It was kind of like a roundabout way of, like a passive aggressive way of attacking his mother.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't exactly that. He just had the pass for Santa Cruz, and
Yeah, he did.
he was able to get in there and get his
But
chicks.
it's still kind of a fuck you to his mom because
Yeah.
they put out an announcement. Don't take a ride from anybody that doesn't have the Santa Cruz
There's
pass.
Kemper going, I had the Santa Cruz
And he was
pass,
like,
guys.
ha
Ha-ha!
So,
All right, so I'm gonna pull us back in real quick.
Sorry.
you
It's
know
okay,
what
I'll
else we
pull-
start talking about?
Pull everybody back in. All right, so and then I'm gonna kind of leave everybody with this. So, of course, like we talked about a little bit before the digital age, now everything was on film. I remember this time. Many companies offered film development by mail and often offered drop boxes or kiosks in parking lots, which look kind of like those little like burger joints that are just so tiny you can't even hardly turn around in.
I remember those. They had them.
Yeah.
Or the shaved ice huts.
Yeah,
We
and
have
you would
those
just fill out a little form, put your mail, your roll of film in there. Nobody checked your ID. Nobody checked
One of my
anything.
ex-girlfriends worked there. And
Yep,
we
gave
had
you a
party
ticket.
night.
You know, they dropped it off. A week later, you come by, you give them the ticket, you take the film. That's all they knew. There was no way to track you. There was no way to verify who you were. It was just kind of the honor system. Well, there is a reason I'm bringing up the Boy Scouts. So, actually, one of the largest child trafficking rings during the 1970s and early 80s was busted because of a fluke with Photomat. And so what happened on August 23rd of 1976, New Orleans Juvenile Bureau received a call, and the call was from a regional office of Photomat in Dallas, Texas. Now, what had caused this fluke was basically a broken conveyor belt. The film, would go through the processes, because everything was like old school automated, it goes through this conveyor belt. Well, the conveyor belt broke, and so the regional manager had gone out there to see basically what was going on, why the conveyor was broke. And when he looked down, he saw multiple pictures of two men having sex with a young boy. So, of course, what he did is he looked at, what film does this match to what envelope? And he wound up calling the New Orleans Juvenile Department of the police to report basically what he had found. Now, the only thing that they knew was that supposedly the person's name was Harry Kramer. Now, this Kramer gentleman gave a bogus address, a bogus phone number. Apparently, they couldn't identify him through the photos. They couldn't identify the boy. So they just had to assume that Harry Kramer was just all bogus stuff. So they're kind of stumped and they're like, where are we going to go with this? And one police chief happened to look down in the picture, and on the coffee table in the picture of that pornography picture was a copy of Boy's Life. Now, Boy's Life can only be gotten if you are either a troop leader or a member of the Boy Scouts of America. And I think that's where I'll kind of leave it tonight.
Can I say something real fast?
Never.
Absolutely.
Never. Well, there is also something we're probably going to get into in the next episode is the lily pad of the.
Oh, yes. Another fluke or divine intervention,
So,
should you
look,
say?
either you're going to believe that this is divine intervention or possibly someone fucked up and someone of a higher power in the government or whatnot saw these things and was like, I can't outright come after these people, so we're just going to be like, Photomat messed up. Look at this. We found this on a lily pad. Yeah. Or we found this on a lily pad. And then that's how this cop over here found this. I was like, no.
Yeah, I mean, because it is kind of unusual, and we'll get into that story, next podcast.
What we're gonna, I know the next episode what we're gonna get into is it's either God literally stepped in and was like, dude, we need to get this pedos right now, and you humans are fucking up, so I'm gonna mess some things up here, or it's just one of those things was like, I think someone stepped in and was like, no, we need to stop this right now.
And the thing that was really terrifying, now I can remember, and this is kind of a off note because I know we're trying to wrap it up, but I can remember back when, everything was on film, you had the little 110, like little disposable cameras and things like that. There were places that you could send, because they started to, after some of this, they started to crack down on like, everybody had, like the nude pictures of your wife or your girlfriend or, whatever. They started cracking down on that. People wanting to have those kind of pornography pictures, developed that were of consenting age. But there were still, at that time, places where you could send your film to be developed, completely anonymous. They asked no questions.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing like that. So
I had an ex-girlfriend, and she was running the photomat in our mall. We were already exes for about a year and a half, and like we just became friends, and then we just stayed friends and whatnot. And like my buddies and me had a party weekend, and well, we took pictures of everything. And I went and had developed. I was drunk the next day, and I was sober. I was hungover the next day, and went and developed it. And it was one of those ones. It was one of those things where it took like only a couple hours to have it developed, and I came back after I was hanging out in the mall the whole day and eating pizza at Sbarro's. And I come back and I look at her, and she was like, "What did you guys fucking do last night?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she just handed me the stuff, and I went through it. I was like, "Holy shit!"
You better be glad it was a friend on the other end of that development machine.
There was a lot of
the crazy thing for that too. Like, it wasn't just even regular film; it was like 8mm film too. And you're right. There were like computer shops. Like there would be these guys like like they kind of hung out at like Babbage's and like a lot of the old school like computer spots who were like, hey, I run this service on this side where if you got this 8mm film or this camera film developed, I've got a dark house. A dark room at my house. Yeah. I'll do all this for you, and that's where it got big. Question. Yep, yeah. On BBSs, if you guys remember BBSs from back in the day, the bulletin board system. But yeah, a lot of that got. I know a guy that knows the guy. Hey, get on this BBS and contact this dude and send him your shit. And a lot of that kind of went. That was like literally the early version of internet porn. Like no joke. That was the beginning.
Oh yeah.
It was insane. I mean, it's because I do remember because my dad actually had actual stag films on 8mm, and these were legit stag films. These weren't like.
I'm sorry,
we're not talking enough stag. We're
not talking like Nicolas Cage.
This was just like regular like John Holmes.
I'm laughing right
John
now.
Holmes stag films. I have them put up. They're
we
actually
inherited these.
Yeah, I have them. Like 8mm.
Yeah, but those things may be worth some money, guys.
They are. Like I said, it was like John Holmes or John Holmes.
But there was like there was a really uncomfortable moment where he had to look at his dad and say, "Dad, what's a donkey show?"
What's a donkey?
I'll tell you stories after when we're off here for a second.
I want to go to sleep.
All right, guys.
Sleep.
Sleep. What's that?
I could not tell you.
Part 2, we're gonna get into the whole Gacy side of this, and when
isn't that like part 4 now though? Because like actually
part 4 or 5. Well, no, there's gonna actually
correct some aspects of Dahmer again when it talks about Gacy.
I thought you wanted to go to sleep. Do you want to keep going this for
an
hour?
Right now.
Well, and we're gonna travel back to Dallas, Texas during the time that Dean Corll was doing his thing. So
we're gonna get
the Wayback Machine.
We're gonna go into the what was the one kid they couldn't identify where they actually kind of proved that was the swimsuit kid.
Charlie Bucket.
Charlie Bucket.
Sorry, Willy Wonka reference again. I can't help it.
No, there's a kid that they couldn't identify as one of Corll's victims. It was a swimsuit kid. I can't remember where he got a swimsuit from, and they were showing when you look him up, the only thing they could think of was like he's either from California. It was like how did he get here and stuff like that. How how did he get to Texas and Austin and stuff like that, and he became one of Corll's victims in his boat shed. So next episode we're going to get into Gacy. We're going to get into more of
correcting some things about Gacy that was on the Dahmer show.
Oh yeah, the Dahmer show fucked up.
Hard
and get into someone. We're going to get into a couple of people that are connected with a whole bunch of shit, but get into somebody that ran like one of the biggest international child pornography and trafficking rings that went on for almost half a century.
And we're not even talking about Epstein.
Oh yeah,
no.
And then
we're not even talking about Epstein. This was way before Epstein.
Yep. And then I'm going to invite everybody to the pants party.
You're all
the party in my pants.
Pants party.
I'm not wearing pants.
Chip, I think you mean the pants party, and you want me to come to your.
Oh, you don't wear pants at the pants party. That's it. Only I wear pants. It's a thing. It's a thing.
I'm not wearing pants. I am wearing star-pangles.
I like star-pangles. Star-pangles are so cute.
One more.
Don't worry about it. Listen, I'll send you a memo all about it on our new fancy company letterhead. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Wonder Woman.
We are talking about.
This is normal corporate attire. I just thought I'd let you know.
We were last night. We were talking about some things real fast, and I actually want to bring it up.
Including star-spangled panties.
Star-spangled panties.
Spangled.
Say that 5 times fast if you can.
Star-spangled.
Do it.
That.
Mother de la Mort is finally going to have her. After we're done with this, I want to say, I'm hoping we're going to do this. She's going to finally have her 3rd episode to the Satanic Panic Damien Echoes.
It's like 3 years.
Oh,
it's been 3 years.
So we can't just go straight into 3. We're going to have to start over.
We are going to start over.
Oh, yeah.
With the Satanic Panic. We're actually going to go into that, which juxtaposes with the real shit that actually happened in the 70s.
I'm excited as hell about that, man.
It connects to all this and kind of how Satanic Panic kind of merged with the panic of the pedophile, you know.
Oh my God! I'm sorry, Nadine.
Yeah.
Oh, Nadine, sorry to bring this up real fast.
I haven't been bringing up comments just because we're doing the podcast, but I just turned on the comments again and saw this, and I am so sad for you. So, Nadine, guys, my ride home from work has been ruined. Someone hit a deer, and it was in the middle of the road, suffering. I just left, and the cop is taking care of business right now. I'm so sad.
That's terrible.
I'm sorry. And they can't. No, this is going to be mean. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound callous, but you can't even utilize it for meat after that.
Oh, shit.
Because you don't know how long it's been hit, which means that in certain internal
you don't know if it's got internal,
and poisoned the meat. There's a reason why you feel dress. You know, that
very quickly.
Yeah.
Yes, very quickly.
Yeah.
And so the poor little guy suffered needlessly.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But guys, this is the what episode are we on? Like 7 or something like that now?
Fuck if I know. I need to be cheered up.
We're about halfway through the season.
Yeah.
We're about halfway through the season.
I think at the end of October we'll be at the end of I do there is gonna be something very special at the end of October. I know I'm planning in my head that I have not told anybody else yet about.
Yeah.
But I am planning this.
Nadine mentioned needing to be cheered up, but I gotta tell you, dude, this may not be the show you want to use to get cheered up on.
Cheer you up.
Guys, I want to be cheered up, and then also you go back and listen, and it's just freaking human trafficking.
I wanted to show off something that I meant to show off in the last in the show prior to this, my show, but I don't think it's appropriate.
It's not going to work here.
Like, I was going to show off a quick video that somebody sent me who's going to be next week on
Vice versa?
Aka Chit Chat.
We can at least talk about it.
We
next
could do
week,
it at
vice
the
versa.
end.
Yeah.
Because I
You
have...
want to do it at the end when we close out?
I have a little 4-second thing of her with the red tie.
Oh, that's
go ahead.
Oh, that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, 4 seconds.
I
That's
cheer
fine.
you guys up.
I'm already cheered up.
I'm cheered up. I mean, like both Akami are very cheered up by that.
Show wing.
Vice is very Vice.
Vice is beautiful and
As
awesome, and I got approval for how I am going. I was typing it up the other night and I never hit send.
She
Yeah, I
likes
know
to,
Vice is hot.
she likes to say fuck and likes to say the word cunt.
And she asked, she was like, just letting you know, and I'm like,
Okay.
my people.
She's like,
You have to be
Americans.
my people.
She's like, Americans don't really like these words. Like, look, I know you're using the whole
No. She's
UK
right.
idea of America, but
she's
no,
right.
it's not.
Most Americans don't like fuck, cunt, twat, any of that shit.
Piss shit, motherfucker.
A lot of my friends aren't Americans, so the word cunt means something completely different to me. I guess I do use it frequently, but not, I guess, how American people see the word. It's different for me.
I call everyone twat waffle, if you guys remember that.
I call a lot of people twat waffles.
But speaking of next week we also have another show on Thursday that you guys got to tune into, and that's the Outlight podcast. It went really well last Thursday. Thank you guys for those of you that showed up, and the 34 of you that have already watched it. Woo.
You know, I forgot to
That's
bring
awesome.
something up real fast because you brought up the snow, the snow murders. What was it called again?
There you go. There you go, guys.
Yay!
I was laughing my ass off at this when I found this, and I sent it to Oddmother. Can you go back to the pictures real fast?
If Vice
Okay.
was a U.S. president, she'd be Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
Somebody got my swing comment. That's
Why not?
awesome.
Can you bring up Bad Eye Bob's?
Oh, wait, hold on.
Never mind.
I was getting the comment down. Calm your tits.
This guy
Oh God.
was in the middle of the snow killings with the children. Bad Eyed Bob
What is going on there?
could not stop laughing when I saw this, and then when I heard about the fucked up shit he did, I was like, "Oh my god!" But I can't laugh. I can't stop laughing at him.
Before that picture was taken, they had him eat 10 crackers and told him to whistle.
No, that's his. That was actually. They were saying that's actually how he looked all the time.
I know.
Well, I mean, like
We
if
freak
he was
everybody
staring
out
at
real
you,
fast?
would you be like, "Are you staring at me, or are you staring at the person over there?"
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go forward.
That was my leg. I will call you out every time.
But yeah,
Ding, ding, ding.
are you looking over here? Or are you looking over there?
Please tell
Why are
me.
you
Look at
whistling
her.
so much all the time?
Please tell me somebody else
Whistle
heard
while
I
you
did hear
were.
it.
Please tell me somebody else heard the
You
ding,
know what?
ding,
Like
ding.
what it
I
is
didn't.
with him? It's the bangs for me. It's the freaking
What was
bangs
it?
that he has.
Banging what? Oh, his hair. Gotcha.
No,
Gotcha.
his hair, his bangs. Like no, his bangs. He actually
Oh.
bring it back up real fast.
He did. Yeah, he has bangs.
He has bangs.
They're curled under quite nice.
No, they're
too.
curled too.
They're curled under quite nice. That was definitely some hair wand workage.
Oh, Jesus Christ,
Okay,
man!
That's terrifying.
All right, guys. So next Thursday, Outlight podcast with Raz and Delphine.
Yeah.
Thursday after. The only reason why we're doing this on a Tuesday night is because we are unavailable this Thursday. Well, we're going to be in Los Angeles and Orange County next this weekend.
Yeah,
So
y'all
we
are
are
doing something
leaving-
exciting.
We
I mean,
I haven't. We haven't announced it yet, so I'm not going to announce
we'll
it
announce
quite
it
yet.
afterwards.
We're going to announce
Yeah.
the special thing going on with that.
Gonna make some people.
Oh yeah, can't wait to see that. Man.
freaky.
Yeah, there's good. But you know,
But next week, so Outlight
We're-
podcast,
we're
and
gonna
then
okay. We're gonna hit up Not Scary Farm. We're going to hit up the 17th door, and possibly when we get back, we might be able to hit up the chamber.
the chamber.
Basically, they're just gonna show up to these places and hit people and just leave. That's the plan.
I want
Take 'em in
to
the
be hit
chin.
with a squid or an octopus. I want to be slapped by one now. Like when you said that, I was like, I want to have that done.
Super Hente level 7.
I was about to say.
I literally like.
I used to smack people with a 3-foot bluegill. Does that count?
And it was all. Mind you, I
Yes,
it was in a room full of pig carcasses.
I don't. know
You
if that's
got
true or not.
slapped by an octopus.
It was in a room full of pig carcasses.
And I got slapped in the face with a squid. So I'm like triple confused.
So
at
do they
this
have to,
I'm
point.
not understanding the connection.
And
there.
we're all
It's
confused
like,
too. I promise.
anything?
We sharing this with you.
I think
see
so,
pics.
and I was
Logistic of this.
confused.
It's
Like, is that like aqua cows?
Well, okay.
Or maybe squids are just pliable enough to where you could slap somebody and not leave marks.
It sounds like it was a room for dissection storage. If you're talking about how there was a bunch of the like fetal pigs, if there was like squids and stuff, because like dissection storage rooms like have that kind of mix of things.
It was a
Was it made up pig carcasses? Because
No,
I'm
they were
confused
real.
I'm confused on the logistics of it
Okay,
because
hold
of how
on,
much they have to
listen,
swap it out every
listen.
night.
It was a cold storage freezer that they
Okay.
had pig carcasses, whole ones, hanging in there. Like they were
Oh,
butchered.
they were getting ready to butcher them.
They were already like, internally butchered.
See, there's that bit of
Was it
context that we are missing at the
frozen?
beginning of this.
That's what I was
the
trying to say.
squid
But
frozen?
It was
Huh?
a squid frozen.
Was the
no, the squid was
frozen?
not frozen. The squid, they pushed us all into a corner,
Who
and
I need to
warmed
know
the
these
squid up?
things.
and
I
I
wanna
got
know who warmed the
slapped. It
squid
was
up.
not warm.
No, who warmed it up?
It was not warm.
But it was viable, wasn't it? It was like actually
You
moving.
could. It's
It was
Southern
wiggly,
California.
wiggly, wiggly.
You could buy a raw squid.
I get
What
that,
was
but
it?
who,
Was it a whole squid, like all
Yes.
of the tentacles, or just
Was there a
one
beak?
big
Yes.
tentacle?
was
It
there
was
a
all the
beak?
tentacles. And it
See,
went slap.
I want
This
to get
goes
one
into
of those
this-
squid.
This goes into this like what you in your own time, your private time should stay private. I think.
I just
Now,
still very.
did you get
I'm
hit with the
still-
tentacle that it used to put?
There I was in a room full of pig
I
carcasses,
want
and suddenly a
slow
squid.
motion video of me getting slapped by a squid.
I just.
I want it.
I
I
don't
would
know
Can I-
why.
Can I do like a
I don't
Cthulhu
want to
cosplay and
do
just do it?
I'm still confused. This was like 5 years ago. And
No, we're
I'm
confused
still
with you.
Confused as to what? No, this was.
I'm gonna be
fine.
confused for the next decade about what actually happened in this room and why you were in it.
7 years ago.
7 now.
Yeah, no, it wasn't 5 because 5 years ago is when I broke my.
This is
ankle.
gonna be my next short
The
story.
God's number.
5 years ago was when I broke my ankle going through there. So 2 years prior was when I got slapped with a squid.
Has it been 5 years now since you broke?
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
Since I sent you some
I'm
sexy
jealous.
messages.
I'm gonna make like a B horror film called Pig Squid, and like I don't know, just it sounds like an
Look, just to let everybody know, if you go to a pub and you order, the calamari
Flaming
O-rings,
Mo.
you make sure
That it's not pig booty.
you make sure it's actually like squid steaks and tentacles, because if it's the O-ring,
Pig
the
butthole.
O-ring is
I
the
heard the
pig
ding
butthole.
ding again.
I like the ones that look like the whole little baby octopus. You know what I'm saying?
They're
Like you can see all the,
delicious.
like you can play with it, like the.
They're fucking
Those bother
delicious.
me.
Oh
I
my
like
god,
that.
they have them at Monterey, at the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
I
or
can't
like
eat
the wharf.
octopus. I can't.
So delicious.
I don't know what it is. I can.
This
eat
is all
squid.
blasphemy. Like
No,
Cthulhu
it
is
was
very
squid,
upset
it
with all of
wasn't
you now.
octopus.
I can't eat an octopus.
If I could barbecue Cthulhu, I would eat the shit out of him. I don't care about the
That's a
madness
dick move,
of
sir. And by the way, the ding 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 is because my boy is playing WWE 2K22 in the background, and it's I was waiting to the very end to tell you because like you were very into it. I wanted to pretend it was mysterious, but
Did
I
you
was just
see his
laughing
back?
because like everything, like it was always perfect timing.
it was.
It was just all of a sudden.
Okay,
I was
I know-
like,
I know-
I will call you out every time. Ding, ding, ding.
I know we gotta go a little fast, Raz, but did you see who came back?
I just told you about it, and I just told you about it in messages like just a day or two ago.
Oh, was it Triple DX? Yeah, Triple H brought DX.
Oh no, not that. I was talking about Wyatt, but yeah, DX too. But that episode was very sad. Like literally, they carted him around for like we saw them for all of like 10 seconds, and they didn't really do anything, so that disappointed me quite a bit. But it was nice to at least see them.
Oh, I know you're talking. Yeah, okay, yeah, I saw that. But DX, I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, Triple H is definitely in control of WWE now. He's all no. DX is back, taking control of this. I was like, and then they brought it. I was like, this is awesome.
I thought they were actually going to make the comment about how 25 years ago they said that one day they would take over the company. I thought they were going to like
And they did.
bring that up, but they didn't actually bring the conversation.
They don't have to bring it up. They don't.
I know.
So, all right, guys,
Okay.
we're out of here. Next week's Outlight podcast. No Roots we read this weekend. And go.
You'll find out what is going on with the visit. Wow, there go my bank.
We're a corporation now.
We're a corporation, y'all.
Woo, 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 woo.
We're legit.
Suck my.
So you can. Yeah, I was going to say now get ready to suck it.
Yeah.
Suck a salmon.
All right, guys.
What? Okay, which one do we end it with?
I don't know, but we'll see you guys with part 2.
I like turtles.
Bye.